unbelievable.
Master farmers. It's like so overpowered. I don't know. I don't know if it actually is. It seems like.
Welcome to Cloudy with a Chance of Meeples, a channel of conversation and board games.
Hey, my name is Brent.
And I'm Nicole.
Welcome to Cloudy with a Chance of Meeples. Today on the channel, we are going to be diving once again, tail first, into the world of Everdell. Today we are looking at the final expansion. We've covered them all. We've covered, Belfair, Pearlbrook, Spirecrest, New Leaf, and today we're going to wrap it all up with New Leaf. No, sorry, with Mistwood.
I was like, wait.
I just said
no. We're doing Mistwood.
I just said we did New Leaf. So we're looking at Mistwood. Our final forecast coming up. Radar overview coming at you here. First,
cue the thunder.
So the radar overview for Mistwood and Everdell expansion looks like this. If you've not played Everdell, you don't know how to play the base game, this video will make very little sense to you. So I highly suggest clicking the description of this video and you'll find our review of the main base game of Everdell. And then you can come back here and then it'll make a little bit more sense. But a few things that come in this one. The meat and potatoes is this middle section, and that is the Nightweave solo mode / if you're playing 2-player and you want a 3rd player. That's the main stuff in this one. You will get a big critter from Nightweave. You will also get different meeples, so you'll get some spiders, some pigs, butterflies, as well as some stoats. Along with that, you'll get more player powers because Belfair, the expansion Belfair introduced player powers, so you get 4 more player powers. So you get the butterflies, increase your hand limit by 4. You start with 12. The stoats, you can discard cards after playing constructions and critters to gain resources. The pigs, they get all the farms, and people can play those farms, but they get you get 2 victory points every time someone does that. And then the spiders kind of move around with this big giant Nightweave miniature, move around the board and get different resources at different times. So that is a nice addition. More player powers gives it more, variability, and then every time you're a different type of critter, it'll give you a little bit different focus. You also get some core and Everdell cards, and this is just 1 card in each faction that just does just a few different things. End game scoring for Corn, Everdell the King. You get kind of one that's attached to a farm, gain a berry and gain 1 berry for each farm. In opponent cities, they get cards. The Path, this lets you go there. It doesn't take up space in your city and activate any location occupied by an opponent. You can give resources and cards away for victory points. The Leader, every time you draw cards, you can give one away and get more victory points. So just different ways to get different victory points. It also comes with new farms. So if you're familiar with Everdell, farms is it was actually the first card ever designed by James. So these are just different. So gain 2 cards or a berry. Gain a berry or discard this farm. Twigs or berries, berry or activated production. So some of them are like the original, like that, but then some of them have just different things. So those will replace the current farms in the game. Then you also get a few more legendary critters. You have some constructions and some critters, legendary cards, pardon me. And so you got the legendary shopkeeper and the legendary chip sweep, a legendary ranger, legendary general store, a legendary castle, legendary dungeon. This one's crazy. I love it. Discard up to 2 critters from your city, earn 3 resources and 3 victory points for each critter you discarded. Man, so nice. Play any card for free. Legendary cemetery. So there's some pretty cool legendary cards that'll just add more flavor. But as mentioned, the meat and the potatoes in this expansion is the Nightweave solo variant module. You can also play it with 2 players for a 3rd player. There's a ton of content, and I can't even explain it all, but Nightweave will get her own deck. and she'll start with a winter deck, and she'll add spring, she'll add summer, and she'll add autumn cards into this deck, formulating a bigger and bigger deck throughout the game. Anytime it's her turn, you'll flip over one of these cards. If it has a little spider in the top left corner, then you will place one of her spiders in a specific location. So if you're playing in winter, right away you would go to the pebble. If that's occupied, then you would go to the one forest location, and if that one's occupied, then you would drop down to the market or haven, one or the other, and you would put the critter there, give her victory points depending on which level of difficulty you're playing. And that is all, tame, super easy. She would get 0 victory points, but all the way up to terrifying. If you place her in the haven, she get 4 victory points. So 5 different difficulty levels. That's how these cards go. So if you play this card, she would go there. And then the next time her turn would be, she would place Nightweave. At that point, you roll an 8-sided die and put her in the meadow. You'd also then play a card from the meadow. Or sometimes you'll be, playing a card from the meadow and drawing a card into her hand and getting victory points. The later on you go, she'll be claiming awards. So she'll be claiming, going to a location in her city, or claiming a special event. Also claiming a special event, or going to the market or haven, getting 3 more victory points. So it plays very similar to what a third person will do. As I mentioned, you get these Nightweave boards, and it has all of her actions explained, all the worker locations, what they do. The turn summary, you always start by revealing the next activity card, and then, as mentioned, put either one of her little spiderlings or herself in the meadow. And then, depending on where you are, you're preparing for season, you'll be drawing cards. She'll have her own hand of cards. You'll be adding to that. She'll be getting more of these little spiderlings throughout the game. She'll end up with 8 of them instead of the typical 6. So that's kind of how she plays. Again, this is just straight bare bones. I don't have the main board set up showing you all that, but you will just continue to make a bigger and bigger deck. Her game ends when she is out in the meadow and all of her spiderlings have been placed throughout the game board, or on the journey, or taken special events or basic events, what have you. And then she will get victory points at the end depending on what level. So the point value, and then the point tokens added to the journey, basic events. If you're playing Pearlbrook, the Wonders. You're playing Spirecrest, the Discovery cards, all expeditions. If you're playing Belfair, you'd add up her Garland awards. And then depending on what she has, you'll get, she would get 3 points for every special event. And if Pearlbrook, 2 points for every Pearl and 3 points for every Dormant. But then it gets crazy. If you're playing the hardest level, she would get 6 victory points for every special event and 7 for every Adornment. And base cards with a value of 2 value of 0 would actually be worth 2. So there's just tons and tons of difficulty levels. And then on top of that, there are modules, bonus modules, so you can have personalities. So Nightweave the Nasty, if this is playing, then this is her personality for the whole game. So for example, if you play or draw a meadow card adjacent to Nightweave, she then gets the victory points equal to the value of the card with a minimum of 1. You must spend 1 card or resource for each victory point that you want to prevent her from getting. So you can negate her from getting victory points by discarding resources and cards. Nightweave, the Neglectful, after Nightweave enters the meadow, discard all adjacent cards and replenish. If you play or draw a meadow card adjacent to Nightweave, discard all those adjacent to Nightweave and replenish. So this is going to add so much variety. If you're playing solo, I do believe that the personality, as well as the plot, as well as the plan, would only be for solo. And there are a ton of these cards. So you would play these. So coming from above. Place one of these spider tokens, which I didn't show you, on those basic events or basic locations. You may not visit these locations. Just absolutely messing with your gameplay if you're playing solo. It can be pretty punishing, but again, if you are a fan of Everdell and you're a fan of solo play, there's a ton of content in this. And then finally you have the plan. So this is kind of like an overall game plan. So this one, for example, each time Nightweave attempts to place a worker on a block location, she gains victory points, of course equal to the level you're playing. You foil that, discard one card or pay one resource to prevent Nightweave from gaining victory points in this way. So she's got like a plan, and you can stop her by discarding cards or discarding victory points. But again, there is just so much to be had in this expansion. Definite ton of work went into this one. So that is what you get in the Mistwood expansion. So now let's move over to the final forecast. Here we go. So the final forecast for Mistwood, the final expansion for Everdell. As you saw in the radar overview, the majority of this is a solo variant, as well as like a 2-player variant where you can have a third bot or you playing against Nightweave.
Right.
We'll talk about that momentarily, but there are a few other things in this expansion as well.
Yeah.
So let's start with those Khorne Evertell cards. There's five cards, and one in each faction. And I think they're cool. It's kind of tells you the story of Khorne Evertell.
Yeah.
And we have the Green Acorn book, so we read that little story. So these cards just tie into that story. I thought they were good. Just what do you think?
They're nice. A couple of them I really liked. The Warrior.
Yep.
I got this one a couple times. I played this one a couple times, and it was
You give up to 8 resources.
Give up to 8 cards and or resources to opponents to gain 1 victory point for each gift. So that was cool because you can get 8 victory points. So.
And then I think it's Khorne Evertell, the leader, the governance one, where anytime you gain a card, you can give a card away for a victory point, or so. Yep. So there's it's just more variety.
Totally.
Just
more cards.
We're gonna play with this all the time. We're just gonna shuffle it into the main deck, regardless which expansion we're gonna play with. And we're gonna play with these cards all the time.
Yep. Another
thing that it has is the farms, the special through the seasons farms. What did you think of those?
Yeah, it was kind of cool. I liked it.
I liked it. It's not like they're farms, but then some of them, will gain you a resin or a card, or you can gain a resource. I believe it's a berry, or you can discard that farm for a resin and a twig back. So, if you play that one early, you can then.
I never actually got to do that, but
you can just discard it heading into your autumn and free up that spot in your city. So I like those farms. And we're probably never going to play with the original farms ever again.
I don't think so, because these are kind of better.
Yeah. I like them a lot.
I love farms. So
we know that. We all know.
So I love these farms.
No,
it's great.
So moving into the farms, then you have also player power. So you have the pigs, you have the stoats, the sneaky spiders, and then also the butterflies.
Right.
I thought the player powers in this one were all right. I thought they were pretty good. Nightweave, like the spiders, are very similar to the rats.
Yeah. I liked the butterflies. I was that one a couple of times. Where you can increase, so it's like a starling almost. It's
kind of like a starling, but starling gets to pick cards from the meadow.
Right.
This you just start with 12 cards.
It's just cool though to be able to have so many cards, in your as for your hand limit.
And you could have
especially comboing with certain things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have
I can't think of
the historian specific. And that,
or there's some
you can just gain cards all the time.
There are some new cards too that are good with that one. I can't remember what they are, but
I think it's a museum.
Right.
You get to play a card, you draw a card, stuff. Yeah. So that's cool. The stoats, it's all right. You play construction. You play a construction or a critter.
Still learning.
And you can discard 2 cards to gain either a pebble, to either a berry resin, and twig. I thought that was all right. I
Yeah.
didn't think that was like a super powerful. And again, we haven't played with these player powers like we played all the other ones.
We know
right?
the other ones inside out. These
Yeah.
ones we've only played a few times, so it's like
Still
don't know
learning
them as well.
Yeah.
But the pigs,
Unbelievable.
master farmers. It's
Like-
like so overpowered. I don't know. I don't know if it actually
seems.
It seems like it is.
So you have the pigs at the start of every season. After you prepare for season, you get to play a farm for free.
So you get like a whole bunch of extra.
And they don't cost a space in your
cards.
city.
Yeah.
But there's still victory points at the end because they're still a farm.
Yeah.
You can still tag the husband and wife.
Yeah.
You know, you can get one for each.
Yeah.
So you can do that. Any opponent can play one of these farms, and you get 2 victory points from the
And you know what?
bank.
There's so much to it because, like, I think when I had the pigs one time, we were playing. I don't know what version of Everdell. I think we were playing New Leaf, but with all these Mistwood cards, and we had Belfair in there. So our
Garland Award.
Our Garland Award. I was gonna say banner. That's not the word. Was most
Construction, probably.
I think most constructions, and so I won that because I had all the farms.
Yeah, you had like 5 farms, and they
Plus-
don't cost us space in your city.
Plus, I had like I can't remember. I think I had the castle, so like you have the most, or you get a victory point for each common construction or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that the castle?
Yeah,
I
that's
think
the
it
castle,
is.
yeah.
And so I got a whole bunch of victory points for that too. Like it was just it's just you can combo it really well.
Well, and not just that. If you're playing with through the seasons farms, all those farms are getting you different things as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Again, not
Yeah.
going to say the pigs are OP, but they are. They're
pretty sweet though.
They are pretty sweet. And you know what? Final thing before we get into the Nightweed, the meat and the potatoes, you have more legendary cards.
Yeah.
And I'm a fan of legendary cards. You're a fan of legendary cards. I know some
Yeah.
people think that they're maybe a little too swingy.
I like them.
But I don't know. I love it because I can have an extra 2 spaces in my city, a potential 2 spaces in my city. And these ones have some cool ones, you know, like you have Click Clacks, which
I
is
like Click Clacks.
a legendary general store.
Yep.
Getting you 3 berries plus a berry for every farm. So you tag that with the pigs.
Yep.
And then you get you try to get the doctor, you try to get the monk.
I had like 17 berries at one point.
And then you just have this huge berry
It's like,
engine with
what am I
Click
doing
Clack.
with all these berries?
But I don't know. I thought that was cool. And like legendary dungeon, legendary castle.
Yeah.
So
Just
there's
some really cool ones.
Really cool ones.
I will
more
say
variety.
the legendary ranger disappointed me.
Mm-hmm.
Stray soft paw. Mm-hmm. And I think that's because we've only I've only ever played with him with 2 players.
Right.
And the so the power is you may activate 2 deployed workers on basic or forest locations for yourself, either yours or your opponent's. So sounds like it's really good because you get to activate 2 forest
workers.
locations, right? But there was never a time where Brent and I were both on a forest location.
I don't think you used your
So,
special ability.
I didn't use it at all when I played with Stray Soft Paw, so that was disappointing. But that being said, we also had New Leaf in there, so we had the
Station.
Thank
The
you.
Knoll Station.
Other places to go, so you don't. When you're playing with all these expansions, you don't go to the basic or the forest locations as often, right?
No. And then you have.
And then you have the market,
Yeah.
and there's just all these different places you can go, and all of a sudden, no one's in the forest locations, and you can't benefit from this card at all. So that kind of sucked.
Yeah.
But
So
that's okay.
I think it's also base value is 4, so you're still getting
know.
a decent value.
That's true.
And if you've already used your ranger, you already got the benefit of the ranger. So I
Yeah.
can see,
Just
it's
my
valid.
personal
Yeah, absolutely.
thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what you get. And it sounds like we're talking that there's a lot more content, but really there's 10 legendary cards, 4 player powers,
not-
and 5 Corn Evertail
not
cards,
that many,
and
but
8 new
it's-
farms. So there's not much, but the main thing in this expansion is that Nightweave module where you're playing.
Yeah.
If you're a solo gamer, you can play against Nightweave, or if you're like us, 2 players, you want to put a 3rd player in there. And to be honest, I remember the first time we played Nightweave, I was reading the rules and I actually sat down and I was like, I'm actually intimidated running this whole third player.
It seems like there's a lot to it.
But when you start playing it, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And it makes sense.
It actually wasn't that bad.
It wasn't actually that bad. We haven't played with all of the plots, with all the personalities. Like, if you are a solo gamer, I think this is an exceptional expansion.
It would be super enjoyable.
That you will love if you are a big fan of Everdell, because there is so much in Nightweave, and how she plays.
Yeah.
There's different levels where, depending on which cards or which awards she gets, or events, I should say, she gets more and more points. So there's a lot in that.
And you did a solo round.
Yeah, and I played solo, and it was all right. I don't mind playing against Nightweave. It's a lot of setup for me personally, just to play solo.
It's a lot of setup.
It is a decent amount of setup, and there's a decent amount of rules, as I said. But they're pretty simple and they're pretty streamlined. So it's hard giving this one overall expansion an overall rating.
Yeah, it is hard because it almost feels like two separate small expansions. Like,
well, a big one and a small one.
Right. It feels like the cards are kind of like their own. Like, these cards are kind of like their own separate thing, and then Nightweave is kind of
the big thing.
Her own separate thing. I don't know.
So honestly, if I was looking to get an expansion for Everdell, I honestly would say this would be the last one that I would pick up.
Probably.
Because I am not a solo gamer, and we probably won't play against Nightweave all that often. Probably not. For the content that you get for the person who's playing Everdell in a group, it's pretty small. So I have a hard time rating it as like a robust expansion for someone who's not going to be playing that solo system.
It's definitely aimed at solo
gamers. And
which is
totally couples who want to add a third player.
Right.
I felt every time I was playing Nightweave, I wasn't actually focused on my game as much, because in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, on Nightweave's turn, I got to do this. I got to remember that.
It was like that.
In the back of my mind, I'm still playing that third person. Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't able to fully focus on what I was doing. And that's just me personally. But I don't know. Overall, I think it's a good expansion if you are wanting solo content. Yeah. If you are just wanting, if you're never going to play solo, or you're never going to play like with Nightweave, with a second player for a third player, I don't know if it's necessarily a good expansion. Like, probably not for what the amount of content that you get. The complete Everdell,
like we have that because we want that. Definitely. I mean, I think you're right. I don't think we'll play with Nightweave all that often. Although we will always play with these cards
and the farms, and we'll play with the legendary. So we are getting it's hard. We're getting a semi good bang for our buck because we love Everdell so much. Yeah. I will also say I'm not a huge fan of the cover. To me, it's just busy. Like, I know it's painting the picture of, the forest critters against Nightweave. And again, if you follow the story of Corn Evertail, it all makes sense. Yeah. But to me, the cover is busy. So if I'm giving this a final rating, it's almost as if I give it 2. Like, if you're a solo gamer and you want that third player, 100%. 10 out of 10.
It's very good.
It's absolutely fantastic. But if you don't want any of that, and you just want the kind of little bit of content,
it's probably not worth the money.
I don't know if it's worth the financial investment. But I'm going to give that aspect of it like an 80% chance of meatballs. Yeah. So, like, it's great. It's hard, but it still is. And that's why it's taken us so long to do Mistwood. Because we've been kind of, I don't know, figuring it out. Yeah. So there you have it. It's anywhere from 80 to 100% chance of meeples. That's a hard one to rate, but you can't really go wrong. It's Everdell still. It still is Everdell. It's still good. Still, the artwork's amazing, and just so there you have it. My name is Brent. And I'm Nicole. Check us out on Facebook, Cloudy with the Chance of Meeples. Remember, grab your umbrella. The forecast is cloudy with the chance of meeples. See ya.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember to grab your umbrella because the forecast is cloudy with a chance of meeples.